we do have to give a thanks to Woodandwatt, W-A-T-T, on Instagram, because we're recording from their space today. It's basically a workshop.
Nice. Sweet.
Reclaimed furniture and fixtures.
Right. Sweet. Your age people will love that. My age people, we like good old stuff. I've drank out of jars my whole life, even when I had huge money. I didn't, they were just there, and it seemed awfully criminal to throw them away.
Do you know, when we had to move houses in Oklahoma, Alex found like one shelf in my house which just had like to-go containers.
Same, I did. Hey, when I was a kid, Tupperware was an extreme luxury.
Are we back or are we frozen?
You with me?
Yep.
Okay. You're back. You seem to look like Mitch McConnell there for a second.
Frozen.
Right, what are we talking about today? Do you want to talk about basketball today? Because that's a worldwide topic.
Oh yeah, let's talk about the stadium.
So Oklahoma City has a stadium that's only 25 years old, and so we act like that's really old. But my hometown, Kansas City, plays out of a football stadium and a baseball stadium that were built when I was a child, and they're still just sturdy as heck. And up there, they're just a little more pragmatic. They're just not going to go donate $1 billion to a private company. So I have kept totally publicly quiet about the Thunder. And the reason is I'm the vice mayor of a city within the city of Oklahoma, a city. So it's kind of tacky for me to chime in, but as long as I don't take a side, I think it's okay for me to give the facts, which are, these guys have offered to throw in $50 million and want us to throw in $900 million. And only the mafia would think that was fair. Literally, only the mafia.
Here's my 50 change. You throw the rest of the 900 in.
And so what happens on that is, so they give us a guarantee they'll be here for 20 years, but as well as I do, guarantees like that mean nothing in business. If you're not in business, you don't have to keep your end of the bargain. So some other towns where this has worked well, the teams put up between 30 and 40% of the money because they are the big user of the stadium. And the sell down here is that we'll get better concerts and all that other stuff. Tulsa, Oklahoma, an hour and a half away, has an enormous, beautiful stadium that's only been used for women's basketball and concerts. So if you and I are organizing a band, we are not going to have them play an hour and a half from where they played the night before. We're going to have them play 5 ways, so you have increased demand and higher ticket costs. So the fallacy on that is people don't really understand the math. It has to be 5 hours away for it to be worth it for everyone. It just costs so much to put on a show, and everybody wants to make money. So the owners are, one of them's a big old banker and oil man in Tulsa named George Kaiser, and the other one is part of the Gaylord family here named the Bennett. He married into the family, but they had money also. But he is also the guy that put the jail trust together and got the jail bond done. Right. And see, this hands are everywhere. Good or bad, somebody's hands need to be there. And if he's the guy that can put the deal together. But did you ever go to a game when you lived here?
With whom, man?
With the Thunder. Did you ever go to a basketball game?
Back in the day when we were trying to get their investment into an India fund. My old boss used to party with Westbrook and Kevin Durant and stuff. So I used to end up at the damn games without understanding the rules.
I've only been one game in my life, so I also don't really want to have an opinion of whether it's worth it or not. But having been from a city that wins Super Bowl and then lost and became terrible, and when your stands are only 50% full and you say you need a new, bigger stadium, I'm saying there's no demand for the product. And if they were a championship caliber team right now, I probably wouldn't even argue. I would say, well, that's where we are. But I haven't seen a fiscal impact from anybody that I really understand. So you go, oh, yeah, every game at such and such. Well, people do come in from other parts of Oklahoma and stay in hotels and pay these enormous ticket prices and stuff. So I just want to see that our investment's worth it. And there were no town halls. Not even the city council was brought in on the discussions. Not even the city council of the city, which would undoubtedly have to be involved at putting that on. So they're just going for a vote because so few people vote in Oklahoma. They know if December or something like that, when it'll be cold, only the people that want it vote. So we just keep doing these hundreds and hundreds of $1 million giveaways, and we have an extreme homelessness problem. And we have an extreme incarceration problem. And we have a childhood hunger problem. And we have a literacy problem. And my thing is go, if you want your 900, I want these other things solved first.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
That's a fair enough deal.
So they didn't think they'd get any pushback. And obviously they're getting a lot of pushback because these guys are already rich. So, and I'm not cutting them down for it. I'm a business person. I'll get the best deal I can get. But here's another thing. We had, the city I'm from, had really good corporate citizens. And what that means for people that don't understand it is they made a lot of money, but they also built and did a lot of things in the city. So a guy named Lamar Hunt of the famous Hunt family that tried to corner silver back in the 80s, and his two brothers nearly went bankrupt, but he owned a big company in Kansas City and he wanted stuff for his employees to do. And that's why the Kansas City Chiefs exist, was because he wanted it right. And he lost money on it forever. He kept it going because that was the cost of doing business and keeping employees there. So the guy that brought the Kansas City Royals about he started selling aspirins in his basement by repackaging them. And he turned it into this huge company. And he kept the Royals there. So his employees had places to go and do. And so I don't see that the investment here is for the city or for the employees. It's for this very, very limited amount of owners and for the people that can afford season tickets. You know, I mean, really and truly, because those are the folks that every week. And they did make downtown better. They did bring new restaurants there. There are hotels there. So it's wrong to say there's no upside. And it did put us in the national spotlight for something other than the bombing of the building downtown.
Yep.
So it really is, when I say, for me, I would just say these other things have to be solved first, and then we could do it. And I'll guarantee you wouldn't see a homeless person here, period. You wouldn't get a bunch of tiny homes, they'd be living in them, doing their thing. There's nothing wrong with a two-sided negotiation. But if somebody comes in with that much money and they help you get elected, you got to buckle under and cut the deal. But I just think what I would say is I think it's disingenuous to act like this is about the city.
Yeah. Okay, so it was almost a month ago when The Guardian actually reported that the Thunder was threatening to leave if they didn't get a new stadium. And that was when I shared it with you, and then I realized that Sean doesn't really care about basketball, so he's not even going to respond to the stupid article I sent him, so I left it alone. But I didn't know the stadium got approved this quickly. I thought it would take like ages for something this big to get approved and move through the cogs of the machinery.
It's the right 3 people or 4 people. Look, Aubrey McClendon was one of the original owners. Tom Ward was one of the original owners. And Bennett always has been an owner. And look, they built a great franchise when they were winning. And so what I would say to anybody in business, the team is only worth what someone will pay for it. And someone will want to steal it for their city that feels like this is the... Look, if you're in Aspen and you're with your 8 friends from all over the United States, and everybody came from money, and so they're even more rich now. These things matter to you to have something to brag about with your friends. And I know that for a fact. I know the groups, and you go, so it matters to them. So do you remember Donald Trump, I think, was buying Adnan Khashoggi's yacht? And after he bought it, Khashoggi wanted to keep the name of the yacht because it was his daughter's. And Trump stuck him for like $50 million to keep the name. He wasn't going to use it anyway. It was an Arabic name, you know? But my take is you go, what is this worth to the city? So the people paying the tax are the poorest. They don't ever get to a game. They can watch it on TV, but they don't have any real ownership in anything. And, you know, if the people can threaten, don't give us $1 billion and leave, it's very British. Really is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's, and Bennett's a Scot. The other guy, I don't know what Kaiser is. Got to be German, because if it was, you know, Kaiserberg or Kaiserman, I would think he was Jewish, but I don't think that's the deal. But it's a really weird setup, because the stadium they have is sufficient for now.
Yeah. Like,
so
is the stadium like overflowing right now? No, right?
No, what everybody does here, and they did it with the jail. Oh my God, it's 30 years old. It's old. And you go, these structures should have been built for 100 years. They're all cement. Come on, dude, quit me on this stuff. Now, do they deserve upgrades and everything for paying rent there? Yes, they do. So, you know, let's debate that. But they're using what's called the MAPS tax, which were things specifically designed by Oklahoma Cityans to make our city better, so Republicans didn't have to say they raised taxes.
Oh, yeah, I remember this. This was basically for the Scissortail Park and those kind of developments that would beautify and make downtown more attractive.
And you know who owns property downtown? The oldest families in the state. Because nobody else can buy that. Right, nobody else can buy that space. They just can't do it. So it is, and you know, the streetcar was part of that, and nobody's ever on that dang thing. And they're trying to expand it now, and you go, really? Okay, can we expand something that's working? So we have the city I'm from has kind of a construction cartel, and they do all of the city works, and there's like 3 or 4 of them. And so they build something and then basically leave it behind. Nobody ever does any maintenance, so you have to come back and rebuild it or tear it down. And so unfortunately, I know the game, and I know all the players, my family members. So I just want to see us. What our city desperately needs right now is to address homelessness and our incarceration issues. You know, there are things that we can do as a city more important than this. You know, and let's say if we've agreed to this $900 million, how about the owners agree to take $400 million of it, and we use that money to cover all these other. So in our last city budget, which is a $2 billion budget, Oklahoma City, hard to believe, isn't it?
I know.
Yeah, they put $150 million towards homelessness. So you can't tell me you don't have the money. We're going to spend it. It's just a matter of where.
Oh, it's such a shitty thing where the sports team takes precedent over like the homelessness and education. And even I see that shit in other countries. It's not a country-specific problem. Like even when they throw like the Olympics and those kind of events, that country is, I don't know how much money they're going to make during the Olympics, but I'm sure it's not worth the devastation they're causing on their economies.
The only people I saw do it well was maybe 4 years ago. They built temporary sidewalks, temporary walkways. They didn't go in and put all the infrastructure in for it. They were really smart. And when it ended, they went back to their normal city. And these what were then now green zones were just, you know, put up for sale. I mean, rarely does anybody do that right. I wish I could tell you which city it was, but I don't remember. Yeah, it is for me, you know, being part of another city government. So would if it, you know, my people are going to pay sales tax to it, and and look, I collect sales tax for it in my other restaurants. But yeah, it's going to be a kicker. So what else we got going? What else is going on in your world?
Since we depressed everybody with that to begin with,
one of our better.
Sean, people love sports, okay? Sports sells. That's how, like the Romans, that's how they distracted the population.
Give them enough bread and enough sports, nobody will notice. Oh, I'm aware of what's happening. I'm very aware of what's happening.
So your our little segment that we did a couple of weeks ago on PragerU, is that the stupid thing?
Yeah, right.
Was actually on some of the national media in the US today, where they finally figured out that Oklahoma, Texas, and one other state are approving this as part of a course curriculum for education at schools. And yeah.
Let me tell you why that's a big deal. Texas is the biggest school system in America. So if they don't have it in their books, they just have the videos. But once they have it in their books, mostly it goes across America. That's why Texas is a big deal. And why one person in Oklahoma was able to decide this is beyond me. Look, if you don't know anything about this Prager guy and you legitimately are concerned about education, Google owner of PragerU for fake university comments on child porn. And his comments on child porn was, it's not a sin. And then the guy was like, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, as long as you don't take any action, it's okay what you think about. And he goes, what if somebody's over there, toting their tool and doing it? He goes, yeah, that's not wrong. This is the guy sending video into our grade schools, made that quote.
Oh, God, that is fucking disgusting.
Missing is he needs to be a football coach, it really, so people just do not, for one, people with kids in school are too busy. And the thing that I would say is, you got one or two parents working their asses off trying to get their kids through school. They just assume everybody at school is doing the right thing. And you can't assume anymore. That day has passed us by. And the national news is picking it up, but it's already here. Now, the biggest school districts here are refusing to use it. But that doesn't mean in the rural areas of the Bible Belt that they won't buy into this conservative teaching of history. And especially for brown and black people, you should go watch some of the videos that they are playing just so you know what's coming. Because the 1960s were an awakening of racism in America. Didn't get that far. 1980s, a little better. O.J. Simpson set it all back, 50 years. And that made it okay for everybody to hate each side because it was so corrupt. And then I thought we've made some movement about the last 5 years. And whenever there's this pendulum swing all the way back to move us back quite a while. And we're there once again. Yeah.
See, maybe the interesting thing about those videos that the ones that I managed to look at online, where it's almost like that thing that Ricky Gervais says in one of his interviews, where they ask him, why do people get so offended about things you say about the church and stuff like that? And he says, my problem is not these people getting offended. My problem is that their offensive feeling and their emotion is not equated to my feeling of telling a joke. It's equated to my fact. And they try to deny my fact with their fucking feelings. Their feelings aren't a fact. I'm just telling the truth. And that's the entire concept of that stupid video series I was looking at, where one was about Christopher Columbus. And I was like, okay, this is a new version of whatever the hell I'm looking at.
One thing I would tell you about the British is I like the fact that they make up shit about their own history. They just go, we rolled in, we took everything, we left. You don't like it? Come take it. If we were honest about our history like that, that'd be fine. And we're in the time of the internet, so both sides get to tell their story. That's what's so history. His story is changing because you get both sides of the story. Look, I will guarantee you in English schools, they didn't say that they starved 25% of the Irish population. With all of these people intermarried and living on both islands and everything else, no, they don't. They just say there was a famine over there, not that it was created by them.
Do you know, till like maybe 10, 12 years ago, I'd only heard about the potato famine. I never knew it was caused by the British.
Oh, yeah. So, there was a fungus that grew on the potatoes, which collapsed them. But we still had corn and barley and all this other stuff. But the problem is you had to give your cut to the landlord, who then shipped it back to England while the people all around him were starving. I mean, but it also, I get from a military perspective, they killed off a lot of people that were going to be soldiers against them. Actually, it fired because eventually we took all their money in World War II. You know, I mean, that's the Irish moved to America and Australia and New Zealand, and we had the opportunity and we took it. You notice I never feel bad saying that. I really don't. You know, because
I've noticed that sense of glee in your voice every time you say America took the money from UK.
Oh, we left them penniless because they were warring with their cousin, Germany. I mean, the English monarch is German.
Yep.
And that doesn't know that, God, pick up a book or Google. Yeah, they were fighting, they're infighting on their own family and brought the whole world into it. Crazy stuff. Yeah. Welcome to my world. So who else can I piss off today?
I was thinking about topics, and now I was like, okay, I think we've made enough people angry.
Hey, let me tell you this weird thing. Since marijuana is illegal over there, but it's legal here. So these people keep dropping me off cans of products that have something from marijuana, like some, and they'll go, no, but this is legal. And I go, are you sure? Because I am licensed for alcohol and sales in this building, and I can't afford to lose that because of some ill-informed salesperson. And so I'll look at it and I'll go, no, it's got this chemical in it. If it makes you high, it needs to be licensed. So the weed business is alive and well, but the soda business, where they put it into other stuff, does not seem to be catching as well, even though they are delicious. You know, I don't know what to do. People just like to smoke weed.
Or eat it, I guess, at this point.
Yeah. Well, at this point, yeah. I mean, we've done enough food stuff with it, but it's interesting to see how it's trying to morph into other stuff. And then it became so profitable that the government clamped down on it a little more, which they should have from the start. They shouldn't have let it be such a wild, wild west show. So if it ever starts to be legal there really is part of it. You got to go, okay, we got to have some controls. And I don't know. I mean, our government here is pretty flush with money, but it's because the Democrats in Washington gave all the states all this money, and they're trying to do yet another tax cut. So tax cut, which will go predominantly to upper crust, and then the stadium, upper crust. Yeah, it's amazing. And then we vote 60% for that side. The poorest people vote for on the hope they might get rich, and then they'll pay less tax.
Isn't there that saying about how all the poor vote for tax cuts because they're like, hey, I'm going to need this when I'm a billionaire, damn it. I'm going to vote for it.
Yeah, and it's sad that is the truth. So, yeah, so the weed sodas are out. That's kind of seemingly the next one. And to curt the law, they've decided to make them like an over 21 drink, but it doesn't say THC on anything. So it's trichomes, which are these white things on weed leaves that actually are the things that get you the most high. They make it with expired trichomes or something. And you go, yeah, if it gets you high, it's still weed. It's
This is like them trying to operate in some gray area of the law.
And what the problem is, they'll take everybody down with them. You can't take the risk. I mean, it really is risky. Yeah, crazy. So but yeah, you know what I would say, honest to God, though, for all things that everybody has to complain about, business is decent here outside of the weather, which I read an article this morning on USA Today that there are 9 key things to pay attention to with climate change. And we're evidently 2/3 of the way through the 9 and acting like they didn't exist.
Oh no. do you know it's going to be so weird? Like if the future generations look back at us and go like, what did you guys do? We're like, hey, we really worried about this one guy who escaped from jail and we had to follow his entire story. We don't have time for your planet bullshit that you're bringing up to us.
Hey, man, we needed a bigger stadium for the team that doesn't win.
See, don't you think that that is like it's also partly a status thing where if OKC loses the Thunder to another state, it kind of drops the ranking of it being an up and coming city, which is what it's been branding itself as for the past 5-6 years.
What I would say is that the best thing about Oklahoma is it was reasonably priced real estate, which is not true anymore. You could get a decent job, be able to have a house and a car, and not work over 50 hours a week. That is why this worked here. That's why so many ex-military stayed here, because our city is built up of ex-military, and because we have an air force base, right up the road. We are trying to be this Epicurean city, and we've got another restaurant that got named in the top 21 in America. And so we believe we've made it, but that doesn't mean you get to afford to eat at that restaurant. That's and I don't know when the realization that this happens, but for the few people that get to go travel places and talk to people from other cities, I'm sure it's better. But for people who live here, it looks better. It does, and we have things happening. But how much long-term 30-year debt have we taken on? Because sooner or later, just because the people agreed to it, doesn't mean we can pay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what are we on right now? When I was living there, we started with Maps 1, then we went to Maps 2. What is it, Maps 5 or 6 now? 4? Okay.
Maps 4 included Scissortail, which is a great park.
Yep.
Was it worth that much money? Maybe in 50 years, we will think it was a good investment because real estate will be so high by then. Do we need to keep doing things to make the city better? Yes, we do. But it's on basically a grocery tax, which is what the poorest people pay.
Yeah. Don't people on unemployment and even on the SNAP benefits things still pay taxes when they go to grocery stores, or are they exempt?
I don't think on SNAP you do. I don't know. I don't want to give a wrong answer on that. But if you're doing that, you're getting free groceries. We're talking about poor whites, blacks, and poor Hispanics paying for a basketball team that they'll never get to see.
Yeah.
Tricky. And I'm not being the negative Nancy because I understand the prestige of not having a chip on your shoulder about having a pro team in your city. But for me, give me a world-class museum that people travel here for. I'll take that. Yeah.
Do you know, the first couple of years when this was in 2010, I think the Thunder came to Oklahoma City in 2008, right? 8 or 9?
I don't know if it was them or if it was the Hornets doing the original move.
No, because just to be a dick, anytime someone asks me about the Thunder, I'll be like, "You mean the Seattle Sonics, right?" Because that was the original team.
So the Sacramento Kings were the Kansas City Kings, where I'm from. Our city did not lose any luster when they left. We lost a hockey team called the Kansas City Scouts. I mean, we've lost a whole bunch of stuff. That tells you what your city is about. What do you follow? You get behind. Look, I'm glad the Thunder came. They're going to have to figure out a way to get this thing passed. But traditionally, poor people don't vote. Let's be honest. It'll go. I mean, and people go, "You shouldn't assume it's going through." And I go, "Yeah, I think I should."
Oh, it would go through. Considering, just imagine, if we just do a head count of all the people we've seen in Thunder t-shirts who look like they give a shit and would go vote, they would go vote and get this thing passed through.
Right. Because they think they own part of it instead of, it's look, we are in the Bible Belt, and a lot of people learned how to fundraise off of the churches they went to. And they're good at it. I mean, they really are. They're good at it. So it's going to be interesting to see. You're going to do our polite exit, my man?
No, impolite exit. But I do want to do. I do want to thank the people at Woodandwatt to let us record here. the reason why we didn't have an episode for this entire week was logistics issues. Just remember that Sean and me live 11 and a half hours apart on two sides of the globe. So it is quite difficult scheduling these things.
Awesome. All right, my friend. It was good to talk to you again. I'm glad everything's well. Tell the Wood and Watt people I appreciate it. Tell everybody what town they're in.
They are in Bangalore, and they do have a website called Woodandwatt.furniture. And they do custom orders of anything you can think of wood related. Really nice reclaimed furniture and fixtures.
Nice. Cool. All right, my friend. I will talk to you. When are we doing something this weekend?
Yeah, we're doing something on Sunday where one of my friends who also shares your opinion on, she watches your videos only to see you criticizing the education system. I was like, okay. I was like, since you're a parent and you actually have a kid in school or will be going to school, why don't we have you on?